We already did this kind of video with localized Otome games, and now we'll tackle the last year of unlocalized Japanese Otome games on the Switch, also including ports, and a bit of what's to come next year. 2022 ended with Hime Hibi, Another Princess Days. It's a rom-com by Takuyo, where you go to an all-boys high school and are treated like a princess by your beloved tropes, including a guy wearing a paper bag. The story is about good and evil, and so every route has 2 good and 2 bad ends, and after half of each character route, it's decided whether you continue on the good or bad path, though both will have happy love endings. It's a funny romance story that doesn't focus too much on the plot, but is still recommended for people who also enjoy Takuyo's darker games. And then this Otome year started again in February with Uta no Prince-sama debut. This game takes place after the graduation, and now the MC participates in master courses to prepare for their debut. Originally released on the PSP and successful like the whole franchise, if you like rom-coms or rhythm games, and all these games are suited for Japanese beginners. And at the end of this year, the Uta no Prince-sama series continues with All Star in December and Dolce Vita in February, following the same formula. In March, Jack-Jan was released that has been very popular ever since. It's about a girl who attends an all-boys theatre school and needs to hide the fact that she's a girl. This is a rather light-hearted game about how friendship can develop into love, and it has gameplay elements like rhythm games that can become repetitive over time. Next up was Tokeshikake no Apocalypse. It is set in an underground city that is lit by a special fire that the MC also is in charge in, and one day, after a man gave her a rose, she starts having mysterious dreams. The story begins with a bad end, and while going through multiple time loops, the MC has to find her happiness. It's partly plot and character driven, but the plot can become really complicated. In May, we got yet another entry in the Angelique series called Luminaris, and this is one of the oldest Otome series that includes gameplay elements. This time, the MC gets transported from her boring and exhausting life to another world, where she becomes a queen contestant and has to prove by kind of raising the level of the island and cooperating with the male guardians that she's worthy of reigning this country. This game has overall positive reviews and is part of this well-beloved series, but it also has a heavy focus on those gameplay elements, as you can see in the demo and the Japanese eShop. In June we got Bakumatsu Renkan Shinsengumi. That's a remake from the DS game, where you fight as a female soldier alongside the Shinsengumi. As you can see, the game is quite old-fashioned or back to the roots classical Otome game experience, with a lot of fights and a lot of story. The interesting thing about this release is that it's a multilingual release. That means you have English and Japanese text. Also in June was Kenga Kimi for Nintendo Switch. That's also a port and is set in the Edo period in a world where humans and Oni live together. And the poor MC stands in for a princess in her marriage procession and is accompanied by samurai who also have their reasons for attending this procession. And this decision will change all their lives. This game is critically acclaimed and ported 2 times actually, and each character has a Ken sword ending and a Kimi love ending. The artist is the same as in Shu no Village, and though it's a reject game, it's supposed not to be as gruesome. The last game in June, yet another port of Shirotokuro no Alice, and the Switch version includes both the main game and the fan disc. The game takes place in either the White World or the Black World. As in the Black World, a coup d'etat occurred and the Black Queen Luna is brought to the White World, and therefore the White Heidi needs to become the new queen in the Black World. This game has kind of mixed reviews as the story isn't too deep, but especially the story of the Black Queen is supposed to be more interesting. In July we got another port from Takuyo this time, and that's Sweet Clown for Nintendo Switch. The MC receives a mysterious letter that invites her to a midnight tea party in a castle together with 4 other strangers, and the psycho game begins. This is a title by Takuyo that is famous for its messed up stories, and Sweet Clown fully delivers on that. In August, we got Amnesia World for the Switch, so now all the Amnesia games are also available on the Switch. Of the well-known franchise to experience the story and some mini-games in a new way. We also got another port of an Hakuoki game. I suppose that is like a prequel to the main games. Then in September came Charade Maniacs to the Switch. The MC is transported to a world with 2 moons together with 9 other strangers in order to escape they must act out a drama, though one of them is the traitor who actually brought them here. This is a game with story of a romance and with 9 romance-able characters, with an intriguing plot finding out who is the traitor. Next up, the new Spade no Kuni no Alice, the next part of a long ongoing series of the Kuni no Alice series. This time she has lost all her memories and finds herself in a world where a mafia war is going on. This is kind of the first part where you can romance the allies in the white world, and later next year there will be released the black world part of the game. This series is well known, praised, and known for its symbolism and deep story and character development. But you have to keep in mind that to fully enjoy the series it would be better to play all the games and not jump in at the Spade no Kuni no Alice entry. October was totally overshadowed by Shue no Village, one of the most saddest games this year, and if you want to know more about it you can check out my review about it. But still, Tokimeki Memoria Girls Side 4 wasn't forgotten at all. This is another well-known and long ongoing series that is more of a dating sim, meaning you have gameplay like making a schedule or planning your outfit for the date, and a huge number of classmates to romance. Upcoming in December is the Otome game to the light novel and anime My Next Life as a Villainess, and quite similar to the light novel or anime, the MC is transported into an Otome game, but as the villainess, and you have to find her way to happiness. In this entry, the story is also usurped by pirates. We don't know too much about this game, but I'm sure it will be a funny romantic comedy. Now we enter 2022, starting with Kamigami no Asobi Unite Edition. Again a port of the famous series, where a girl is transported to Zeus' school for gods and has to teach them about love. It's half plot and character driven, and again a game with a bit of steep. In February, we'll have a port of a game I haven't heard too much about before, and that's Killer and Strawberry Plus. In a city somewhere in modern Japan, the MC awakes in a mysterious cafe and is told she's to be protected there. Having lost her voice due to a past trauma, she starts working as a waitress in this cafe where only criminals work and make their backdoor deals, and tries to find out who is targeting her in this unlawful world. To me, this description sounds totally interesting, but I've heard that it's much more like a cafe setting than it's actually like a mafia setting. Next up is Sangoku Rensenki, again a Vita port including the fan disc, about a girl who is transported into the Romance of the Three Kingdoms book and has to actually strategize on battles in this war-torn world. So you have a lot of plot and fights in this game, and therefore less romance. Just shortly announced was the port of Shinigami to Shoujo, a game by Takuyo about a beautiful girl who meets a strange man who has no memories and only knows that he's a Shinigami, so a death god or Grim Reaper, and they go on a quest to search for the most beautiful world. Every chapter in this game tells a little own story, and it's by the same scenario writer as Taisho Alice, so you can expect some twists and discovering a bigger picture behind everything at the end. But also a game slightly lacking in the romance parts. Now we come to the games we don't know too much about yet, starting with Sokai Tenki. This looks like an historical setting, but I can't tell anything more except that it looks quite pretty. Of course, the Bidoshana Sensa fan disc, and the Buster Fellows sequel, so no fan disc, it will be a sequel with a new story to discover. And a new entry will be Radiant Tale. It has like a fantasy circus setting where a normal girl is surrounded by an extraordinary, quirky cast of characters. Also recently announced was Even If Tempest, the first fully voiced game by Voltage coming only digitally to the Switch. It's about a hopeless girl who is full of regrets getting a second chance in life by a witch to become her perfect self, though this choice will only lead to more despair in this trial of the witch. Despite some people wishing for it, the monster in the picture will not be a romanceable character, and apart from that, the expectations are high. And like other Voltage games, this will be a bilingual release with Japanese and English text. And the last game I stumbled upon during my research that totally piqued my interest was Doriko no Toshokan. I'm not sure whether this project is still alive since 2017 and is supposed to be released on the Vita, so maybe DJ just forgot about it. The story is something like, after the 2.5 World War, many books are destroyed, and the MC works in a facility where these books are secured, and there she finds a book that surpasses time and space. So it seems, also judging from the trailer, it seems like a time travel story. Like super pretty, well, interesting allies and an interesting story. And it's DJed, so call me in. Maybe we just have to remind them about the game a bit. So, which games are you most interested in? Which games are in your backlog? And which games do you want to play soon? And are there any other games I didn't mention? Out of the aforementioned game, there are a few games that are Japanese beginner friendly, and those are Himehibi because it's only in a school setting, Jakjan, Uta no Prince-sama, and Tokimeki Memorial Girls Side 4th Heart. You could even try Kamigami no Asobi because it's kind of in a school setting. There are some more complicated parts, but if you're an upper beginner or lower intermediate learner, you could still try it. And of course, the language in Tempest will probably become more complicated, but it has the advantage of having English translations in the same game. And if that still wasn't enough for you, you can watch my translation wishlist where I introduce some other yet unlocalized games. Till then, bye!